When I was a kid, growing up in the 60s, it never occurred to me that our government or our media would lie to us. It was innocent times. Our heroes were people like Superman and Roy Rogers. Our news came from Walter Cronkite. Talk show hosts were people like Johnny Carson and Groucho Marx. There was a Jack Paar show. We enjoyed cartoons like Bugs Bunny. There were no horror cartoons back in those days. Things were pretty simple, and things were pretty innocent. The first time that I realized that the government would lie to us and that the media would encourage or support those lies was in the 70s. It was the Pentagon Papers. The Pentagon Papers were leaked by Daniel Ellsberg, who was an employee of the government. It basically outlined the government's involvement in Vietnam at a much higher level than they had ever exposed to the public. They had been lying to the news media, and in doing so, had covered this up. The Pentagon Papers exposed all that. So maybe this is how everything started that's gone on today, and maybe it's the thing that started the industry that I'm going to talk about later. Our society has lost its moral and ethical base in business and government. In earlier times, the measure of news quality was different. Truth mattered. In today's world, clicks, views, and followers have replaced quality in favor of easy money and sensational or exploitative content. We found our information sources are littered with misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is just things that are told to you that aren't true, but they're not intentionally not true, whereas disinformation are things that are told to you that aren't true, that were meant to deceive. So that's the difference in the two. They sound a lot alike, but they're not. Technology has helped create an industry that I'm really surprised even exists. You know, back when I was a kid, news came from newspapers and was printed on multi-million-dollar printing presses like Goss Metros, and TV stations were expensive. They had enormous lights, cameras that were as big as a washing machine. It was just a really expensive business to get into. The only way you could have a large audience is to be a TV station with a network affiliation or to own an enormously expensive printing operation and have a newspaper. And usually that was limited to a metropolitan area and not really nationwide. The Dallas paper, where I was, wasn't really distributed in Los Angeles or New York. Sometimes we'd get the New York Times. That was even unusual at our local newsstand. So the cost of attracting a huge audience, a nationwide audience, was very, very expensive. Well, today that's all changed by technology. The internet and social media has made it possible to have a TV show with your iPhone. You can attract hundreds of thousands of people and probably not spend $2,000 a month. Not even that. Maybe $20 a month if you have cheap internet service. Your most expensive equipment will be an iPhone or an Android phone. Of course, there are some ways, like YouTube, that you can have a more professional look, but still, the cost of reaching a huge audience of millions of people is nothing like it was when I was a kid. This ability to provide news and stories to a huge audience also created a window of opportunity for people that wanted to do disinformation, and of course, there was also a lot of misinformation. The disinformation came from the media itself lying, and it came from our government telling the media what to say. So disinformation and misinformation became the mainstay of our social media. It also created a huge opportunity for a new business called fact-checking. Apparently, someone had their eye on a big opportunity. They saw that our culture no longer had respect for the truth. Ethics in personal lives, businesses, and government was pretty well gone. Well, this has spawned a unique business opportunity. Amazing as it might sound, there's big money in lying. The fact-checking industry has grown to serve this deficiency in our culture. Trust in our government, our media, and other sources of information has deteriorated. No one trusts these institutions to tell the truth. And so, fact-checking was born. A lot of companies have come to depend on fact-checking. The media uses it extensively, big tech uses it, corporations use it, political entities, the government, they use it to validate their information or positions. It's sort of like having the good housekeeping seal on what they say. But honestly, this has been fact-checked, is everywhere, and I don't think it quite has the reputation of that good housekeeping seal. The fact-checking seal of approval leaves a little bit to be desired. Well, are they legitimate or not? It's a big business. Fact-checkers are supposedly the last word in truth and accuracy, but are they? Cloaked as fact-checking businesses or nonprofit organizations, they provide a service that can have the same lack of integrity as any other business. Do they really look up the facts? Do they really study the facts? Do they really research the facts? Or do they just give their opinion on what they think the facts might be? I don't trust them any more than I trust the media, the government, or anybody else. It's just an industry that's popped up to serve a need. It's a fake seal of approval. Unless you know yourself that something's real or something's true, you probably shouldn't be listening to fact checkers to find out the truth. Here's a list of some well-known fact-checking organizations. You'll probably recognize some of these names, and all of them are about the same. They're putting their little thumbprint on things and saying, oh, it's okay. But, again, the fact check is only as good as the research that went behind it. And I think very little of that gets done. It is a big business. These fact-checking companies make good money. I also read that fact checkers can make up to $60,000, $65,000 a year doing that work. So at least somebody's getting something good out of it. And that's a fact. Well, I have an opinion about fact checking, and I have a prediction on the future of fact checking. I don't think it's going to be very long-lived. I don't think this industry will last. And it's not because people are all of a sudden going to start telling the truth. It's just going to be that the seal of approval is so prolific that they just stick it on everything. Instead of being something that you really want to have on your product, it's going to be so common that no one's really going to believe it. I don't know. I've been wrong about a lot of things in my life, but fact-checking just doesn't seem like an industry that has a long future. We'll look at this again in a year or so and see what happened. We'll refer back to this video and see if my predictions came true. This is JR, the TextPat, OTG, saying thanks for watching, and this video has been fact-checked by me. Cheers. All right.